Welcome into this Valley News Now digital update. I'm Devin Fry. We're continuing to follow a disturbing story out of Fargo that we got confirmed for us yesterday by Fargo police. We had reached out on this over the weekend and got official word yesterday about an infant being killed in an attack by the family's dog. According to Fargo police, this incident happened on July 30th in the morning of that day. Fargo Police Department dispatched to a report of a dog bite in the 3100 block of 32nd Street South, again involving an infant. Before officers arrived on scene, the infant's family transported the child to a local medical facility, but the infant passed away as a result of injuries sustained in the incident, according to police. That's what we know so far. Again, we have reached out to people who have commented on our story saying that they were on the scene, people who have some information about what happened on this day. So we're trying to learn more about that. But one thing that were able to talk about today is some tips from a local shelter, just kind of talking about dog safety in the wake of this incident. And joining me to talk about that now is Valley News Live reporter Harrison Pray. Harrison, will get you in here as soon as I gotta do everything around here, as you can see. Moving the cameras, we're all one-man show whenever we're on this. So Harrison, obviously alarming story that we got yesterday. Kind of what were your biggest takeaways from it, especially, kind of discussing it with the newsroom this morning in the meeting, just kind of what made you want to take this on today?
Well, it was interesting, Devin, how this happened July 30th, so just over 2 weeks ago. And so when hearing that, I was like, all right, this is something that we heard of yesterday by the Fargo Police Department, so the sooner we can get on this, the better. And so that kind of influenced my interest in wanting to pursue this and following it even more. So whenever we hear stories like this that happened 2 or 3 weeks ago, we want to know more information about it, and just how crazy it seemed to be from an infant being bitten and passing away like that. Certainly,
and it obviously enough had a massive impact in the community as well. I check the numbers every day. It's our most viewed story on the website by a wide margin going into today. So just obviously a big impact to the community as a whole. There's a lot of dog lovers out there, and a lot of people have dogs and kids. They're able to coexist. But and that coexistence factor is kind of what you touched on a little bit today. Who were you able to talk to just kind of on that front about the safety of dogs and kids living together?
So I went to Home Ward Animal Shelter in Fargo, and I talked to the operations director there to get some safety tips on how to manage having a dog and then having a newborn baby come into the house. And she said that the biggest thing was to always be watching your baby if you happen to have a dog, in the same vicinity as your baby. So, which is the biggest thing she took away. She also said that it's easy for the dog to get jealous of the baby. So as soon as they come into the house, dogs are really strong in their senses. We'll be able to hear that soon from her pretty soon. But those things kind of jumped out at me. So I went to a local animal shelter, Home Ward Animal Shelter in Fargo, and I was able to get some tips from her, so it was really nice.
Yeah, we'll hear from her in just a second here. I did want to ask, what was kind of her reaction to, obviously you had to talk to her about the story a little bit, talk to her about why you're there. Kind of what was her reaction to this whole, obviously as somebody who works with animals, that's got to hit a little bit close to home.
Yeah, she didn't really react to it much. She kind of stayed strictly to the safety. She didn't really associate herself with the story, and which of course makes sense in wanting to come on camera and talk about it, but keeping it strictly safety and not going into the incident. But yeah, she kept it mostly to the safety tips. I did hear some of the volunteers inside the shelter hear about the infant passing away, like, whoa, that was crazy, with the dog obviously biting the baby. So heard those things, but other than that, she didn't really give any reaction to the incident itself.
Gotcha. One thing that of course I'm constantly looking at the comments on our stories and whatnot. A lot of the debate in around this story was the breed and what kind of dog it was. We haven't gotten any official word on what breed of dog it was. Fargo Police didn't include that in the initial release, and that's all we can go on right now. So, but from what I've kind of gathered from my own experience owning dogs and, you know, having a child, knowing the safety matters behind that. I had a corgi at the time I had my kid, and I was worried about his safety in that situation. So it's kind of just seems like this can happen with any breed at any time.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'd think, all right, maybe the bigger, more aggressive dogs that have that natural tendency are the ones to be most aware of, but talking to the operations director there, she said it could really be any breed. It really just depends on how that dog owner is raising them and teaching them, and that's something that plays a difference. It really doesn't matter how big they are. Now, obviously, I would imagine any dog owner is going to be more, sensitive if they have a bigger dog as opposed to a little one. But I think every dog owner, no matter what size they are, speaking to yourself, who had a corgi, obviously, all right, always got to be aware.
It's still an animal at the end of the day. You know, that's kind of my thought process on it. But no, we did hear from who you interviewed today. And again, who did you talk to again? I know it was that.
Her name was Heather.
Okay.
And she, operations director at Homeward Animal Shelter, and she was able to provide the sights and sounds of just safety tips, and it went well.
Okay, gotcha. This is her talking about just kind of, it can happen to any breed, and here's this for you.
Each dog individually, like certain people like to try to say one breed is more aggressive, that in this situation with infants, it can honestly be any dog that's acting on natural instincts, so I wouldn't necessarily say there's a certain breed that is more prone to this kind of thing.
That makes a ton of sense. Well, go and turn down that. I always forget to do that part. It makes a ton of sense when you think about it, and so that's just something to be aware of as this story kind of continues to develop. You talked to her a little bit as well, just kind of some tips on how to prevent this kind of thing. What were your biggest takeaways from that part of the conversation?
Just being extra aware in general, always keeping an eye on your newborn when it's with the dog. I mean, she already hit on that, but and then also, if you are bringing the newborn baby in, like, just know that the dog is going to be sensitive to smells and, noises, because she was saying that it's like bringing in an object. And so if the dog's treating it as an object, that's kind of, a red flag right there, right? I got to be more aware. And then if you're taking a step away from the dog and the baby, just make sure that you're separating the baby from the dog. So those were the few things that really stood out to me when speaking with her.
Gotcha. Let's hear more from Heather.
A lot of people will bring like blankets from the hospital home before they bring the actual baby home to kind of give the dog a chance to get used to the new smell and things. And then of course the biggest thing is just making sure that your baby is always being watched around the dog and making sure they're out of reach if you do have to step away for a minute.
Just some important tips, some common sense things that may kind of go to the wayside a little bit. I know what it's like to be in the newborn trenches. I also know what it's like to have a fresh dog, and so and a dog that's established in its territory. So just some things, some good reminders there. Harrison, you got a lot more on this coming up tonight. You're working on that right now. Thank you for making some time for us on the desk here. If you have any questions about this story, feel free to drop it into the comments at any point. We'll see if we can get around to it at any point during the day. And of course, if you have any questions on this story as a whole, or if you have any information that could lead to us doing a story to help further this incident, be sure to send it to our email. You can send it to news@valleynewslive.com, and we'll get back to you. Harrison, thanks for making some time for me, and thank you for joining us on this Valley News Now digital update.